You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
Matt Laswitz, and welcome to this week's episode of Bat Chat with Matt and Will, a Batman ranking podcast, where each week my co-host Will Nevin and I dig into 3 Batman stories, discuss them, and rank them on the big board, thus creating a giant list of Batman stories for best to worst. Will, how's it going tonight?
Hey, it's going pretty good. Look, I know we like to banter a bit, and then we eventually like to get up to the episode, and it's kind of a mystery as we're talking, but I figure if people click on the episode, probably read the episode description, it's not that much of a mystery what they're listening to, right?
No, I think most people have a good idea. I rarely listen to a podcast where I'm completely surprised by what they're saying. I usually check out.
I'm going to spoil it just a little bit here in the beginning. We're doing DC Dark Horse crossovers tonight. And one of the stories comes in a trade that's basically impossible to find now digitally. If you happen to buy it while Comixology/Amazon had the rights, you can still read it, but you can't buy it now. Anyway, in one of these DC Dark Horse trades, I was feeling exceptionally lazy. And I was a little bit curious. The story we're going to read is toward the back end of the trade, but there was a story in front of it that was like, this might be good. This might be good. Superman versus Terminator. I regret to inform you, it is shit. It is bad. It is not good. And I texted Matt as soon as I sort of determined that it was not good, which was basically in the first 3 pages. And this is the question I have to you. In this world of Superman versus Terminator, Sarah Connor and young John Connor are on the lam, as they are in basically all of the Terminator movies. She does not know who Superman is. And I found that to be a baffling choice, in that if we are to believe that there is a world in which Superman exists, he has to be the most famous person on the planet, right? A whole host of DC superheroes, yes, magical, metahumans, all sorts of things, but Superman has to be the most famous, correct?
Yeah, 100%.
Like and this was not a story of like, interdimensional traveling. Of course, the Terminators did travel. They sent ever evolving waves of Terminators. By the end, there were Terminators that could fly. Superman still could crush them very easily. I don't really saw the point of continuing to send more and more Terminators after Superman and John Connor. What are other similar choices, narratively, plot? I don't know. What are other similar choices that you have found to be baffling, Matt?
In these kind of crossovers or in general?
Or just in general. Narrative breaking, immersion breaking. That's just stupid. I will believe a man can fly, but I will not believe he is not the most famous person on the planet.
I think DC's insistence for about a decade that Batman was an urban legend in Gotham, even though he was on the Justice League. You can't have a Batman who is publicly a member of the Justice League, but there are still stories where, oh no, he's never been caught on film in Gotham. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. I'm glad they got rid of that. The one thing that came out of War Games, it was like, okay, good. There's like now confirmed footage of Batman, and we can get rid of this urban legend theory. That's a Batman one that immediately jumps to mind.
That's fun in like year 1. But by the time he's on the Justice League and presumably meeting with the president at some point or another, you kind of got to cop to the fact that he exists.
Yeah. Year 1 era, that's fine. You can keep that through, like Long Halloween type, until Robin shows up. I think the softening of Batman once Robin arrives means that Batman is going to be at least more of a public figure. Not necessarily, giving interviews with the press, a la Adam West, but he is something that is seen.
Yeah, almost by necessity. Okay, so comics chat out of the way, and we'll get to more comics. Side note for movie chat. I was on obviously Facebook today because that's what I do with my time. When my cell service works, thanks Verizon. I
You
hope
got
you
hit with that, huh?
enjoyed figuring out what the hell is wrong with your network at some point. But although actually people not being able to call me, it's pretty nice. I kind of enjoy it. But I do like having data at some point throughout my day without having the wireless. Cinemark. Sunday and Monday, the 18th and the 19th. It's apparently National Popcorn Day. If you bring a Lowe's construction bucket, apparently they will fill that bad boy up with popcorn for $5. And I'm going to
Does it
call
need
those
to be
assholes on that.
Lowe's or can
What's
you use Home Depot?
I think it's got to be Lowe's. It's a branded promotion.
Huh.
Voice from the ether.
Again,
So,
probably read the description, know the voice from the ether.
that's true. That's true.
No, I'll go back to the void.
Oh shit, what is it tonight? The para shit, what is it?
The Parazone.
The Parazone.
the
There we
Parazone.
go. Back to
When
the
is this?
Parazone. I think it's going to be unwieldy. That's an uncomfortable amount of popcorn. But I'm ready for the challenge.
You should probably put a plastic bag in the bucket so you can seal it up.
Oh, that's a smart play. That is a smart play. Yeah, I like that.
Wile E. Coyote. Super genius.
So yeah, obviously I don't think this is going to work Sunday because we got the bonus episode on Sunday. But I think that's my Monday, all squared away. Just a giant bucket of popcorn, an uncomfortable amount of popcorn, and of course, Bone Temple.
Oh, see, Sunday night, I've got a 10 p.m. large format Bone Temple.
Oh, extra spoopy.
Yeah,
Extra
exactly.
spoopy.
Because I'll tell you, I saw 28 days later on the big screen at like 9:30 at night. Friend and I went, and then we parted ways, and they had parked on the street. I had parked in a parking deck. It's now about midnight.
An empty parking
An
deck.
empty parking deck, dripping water, echoing footsteps after having left 28 days later. I won't deny that I might have run a little bit to get to my car.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. A little quick step.
Wee bit. Yeah, no, I've got stuff going on this weekend. So, all right, after the bonus episode, what's the large format showing? 10 p.m. Wait, I'm not working Monday. 10 p.m. it is.
Sir,
Will, my brother, you must go and see No Other Choice.
I must go and see it.
It is so good. So good. And what I did not realize, based on a novel by Donald Westlake.
Okay.
Do you know are you familiar with Westlake?
I know Peyton Westlake. Donald Westlake sounds familiar.
Donald Westlake is the writer of the Parker novels.
Ah, I just got the first one. It's in my stack of things to read.
Along with, dozens of other novels. Like Westlake is, one of those guys who wrote in the, the 30s on, or he was born in the 30s, so he wrote in like the 50s onwards. So he wrote, paperbacks back when that was an industry. I cannot tell you the number of novels Westlake wrote in his life, but this is based on one of his novels and was just really friggin' fun and darkly, darkly funny.
Talking about guys who were prodigious writers, I cracked open Man in the High Castle. I don't really care for Dick.
He is not the easiest read. No.
It's a ramp up from George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, I mean, I've read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and it's a bit of a slog, despite it being short. It's fiddly, and it's not as bad as, but it's like reading Lovecraft is just,
Oh God.
oh. I will also say, while not necessarily good in the strictest sense of the word, Primate was some monkey face tearing fun. That monkey went for the face a whole lot.
And I presume the balls.
They did not, alas, go for the balls, but he just went for
Ah,
the face over and
ah.
over again. I will say this script obviously did not care about logic, did not care about following up on things that it established, or really giving us more than the sketchiest of character background or motivations. It was really just to position the monkey to, or ape, chimps are apes, the ape to kill people. To the point where they specifically say it is set on Hawaii. Hawaii, apparently, and this is a fact, rabies as a disease is not indigenous to Hawaii.
Would
Yet,
make sense.
yet somehow, the monkey is bitten by a rabid mongoose. They point out rabies is not indigenous to Hawaii, yet then do not, after saying this, explain how the rabid mongoose was there.
Rabies is a strange thing to introduce into this movie because there are so many stories of chimps just losing their shit.
Yeah, no, they established that the chimp is rabid after pointing out that rabies isn't on Hawaii. If you hadn't mentioned that, I wouldn't have known that, and you could have just shrugged him like, okay, it's got rabies. But you,
Spontaneous rabies.
or I mean, it could have been bitten by something rabid. That's what I'm saying. But instead, they point out that you can't get rabies on Hawaii, yet then they don't explain that, oh, some idiot brought their pet mongoose that was infected onto the island or something. Speaking of bewildering things I've seen, it's like, wait,
Yeah, again, I'm still stuck by the idea that you had to introduce rabies into the movie at the first place. We have this long history of chimps just losing their fucking minds and going ape shit.
trained, normally, previously well behaved chimps just losing it.
Why would you do that as a screenwriter?
Because you needed the ticking clock. It bites one of the humans. So you have the
Ah,
additional thing of this human is not just like, oh, they're hurt. We need to get her to a doctor because this thing is probably rabid.
ugh, that's
But
dumb.
yeah, I mean, it was unnecessary, but it was still, that was like befuddling. Why did you even, you didn't need to mention, other than, you would have gotten like a cinema sins ding for rabies is not technically indigenous to Hawaii. But you didn't care enough to explain it, so why do you care if some nerd on the internet points out that,
Excuse me, this is a plot hole.
yeah, well, who cares? You have the plot hole of never explaining how the rabid mongoose showed up. You don't really explain a lot about the backgrounds of so many of these characters. The
You could also
movie,
just set it in Florida.
yeah, there were any number of other warm weather places. You could have said it in California,
Somebody just wanted to go to Hawaii.
probably. But you know what? As long as you can get past that, there is some, some monkey fighting action there.
So primates are already in the past. Bone Temple on the bill. Anything
Yes.
else?
Bone Temple and Dead Man's Wire this weekend, Sunday and Monday. We talked about this last week. 70s crime thriller about,
Oh, yes.
yeah, Bill Skarsgård and Al Pacino. Good festival buzz.
Elwas,
Yes, Elvis as well.
Elwas. It's a weird name, buddy. You gotta change that.
But we've left our third voice here in the Parazone for quite a while. Welcome back to the show, friend of the show, Patreon backer Matt McThorn. How's it going, Matt?
Hey, yeah, I'm back. I'm back from the Pear Zone. I'm doing good.
How was the
Doing
end
good.
of the show?
You
Make
know,
it?
it was pretty solid. I think stuff ended up in good spots. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. We have any other business before we want to get into the meat of the show?
Philip K. Dick recommended short stories over his novels, honestly.
Hmm.
Less space to kind of wind.
Yeah. 'Cause Do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep goes really off the rails in the last few chapters, like out of nowhere. It's like, wait, this has nothing to do with anything. I'll have to give that a shot. But as Will has already sort of mentioned, Matt is back, and he wanted to talk about some DC Dark Horse crossovers. of which there are quite a few, and quite a few of them are Batman ones. I mean, we've already done some Batman Predator, and eventually we will do Batman Alien with some other Bernie Wrightson stories, because Bernie Wrightson drawing aliens is great. Bernie Wrightson drawing Batman fighting aliens is a match made in heaven. But tonight we are starting off with Batman Hellboy Starman. This is a 2-issue miniseries. The writer is James Robinson, with art by Mike Mignola, colors by Matt Hollingsworth, letters by Willie Schubert, and edited by Pete Tomasi. The cover dates are January to February of 1999. When scientist and former superhero Ted Knight is kidnapped by Nazis in Gotham, Batman must work with Hellboy and Knight's son, Jack, the current Starman, to retrieve him and stop the Nazi plan to conquer the world. That description is not as accurate, as it's really issue 1 is Batman and Hellboy, and issue 2 is Hellboy and Starman. There isn't, other than one page at the end of issue 1 and one page at the beginning of issue 2, all 3 characters together. These are 3 characters, all of whom I really love. So I'm all in on this. One thing I will say that jumped out at me immediately reading it this time that did not jump out at me as much the first couple times I read it, because I read it when it first came out, and I read it when I did a full Starman reread at one point or another. There's a lot of swastikas. And we don't use swastikas in media as much anymore, because if you're thinking as any sane person would, it is still a signifier of great evil. But nowadays, there are people who are just kind of wearing them around. And so you don't put swastikas in your comics anymore.
Well, for very practical reasons, you can't sell them in Germany.
Very true. A problem that I think Mignola ran into a bunch with Hellboy, because he's always punching Nazis.
I could see that, yeah.
Hellboy punches a lot
I
of
remember
Nazis.
I was reviewing for the purposes of an interview or a pre-release review of like a Wolfenstein tie-in. Did not have swastikas in it.
I think I'm going to probably wind up asking this about each of these. What are either of your exposures to the properties that Batman is crossing over with here? Will, I know you don't have any exposure to Starman particularly.
No, I do not. Hellboy, I think I saw both of the Perlman movies, and I might have read a couple of Hellboy stories, a handful. Certainly enough to get the vibes of the character.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, so Starman, I only really read all of Starman fairly recently, but I have really loved the Hellboy universe since I was in like middle school when those movies were coming out, because they were really, putting that stuff everywhere. I've got, not really within arm's distance, but I recently got the like monster size omnibus for Christmas, which is ginormous. But yeah, no, I like Starman a lot. I don't have as much issues with it. I love Hellboy. It's very it's one of the comic things I really like. That and Star Wars were a big reason why I really got into Dark Horse growing up.
Marvel has not been able to recapture that Dark Horse magic with Star Wars.
Nope.
I will leave it at that, because I could. That's a whole other podcast. That's something I could talk about. But we have a very Hellboy story here.
Yeah.
With crazy magic and Nazis and elder gods. This is the Hellboy milieu. And Batman and Starman are existing in a Hellboy story. I mean, you could have done Hellboy in a Batman story. I still would have loved to have seen Hellboy encounter Etrigan, for instance. But that's a different beast than what this is. It's a very breezy little story. It's not heavy. It's not deep in any of the mythologies of Hellboy. We don't get Rasputin. We don't get any of the major Hellboy nemesis here.
Yeah.
You could have really
Or any of
worked.
his allies.
No. Yeah.
True. Yeah, we don't get Abe or Liz or Kate or any of the other BPRD characters. It's just Hellboy in Gotham punching Nazis.
Yeah, it is interesting that, and I think part of that comes down to Robinson writing and not Mignola, that you have like a very Hellboy like plot and the big like Eldritch abomination, but it's not a Saduhim, it's not any of the specific Hellboy Nazis, like you said. It's a lot more in the DC stuff, even though because Mignola is drawing it, visually it's very much a Hellboy looking thing.
It's interesting for us. Last week we did, which Matt hasn't heard yet, a Mignola drawn Legends of the Dark Knight
Ooh,
one-off that
nice.
came out less than a year before Seed of Destruction, the first
Mm,
Hellboy story.
okay.
So you can see the progression of his art.
Hmm.
That's still, I mean, still good, but this is Mignola firing on all the Mignola cylinders and drawing the Eldritch Abomination
Hmm.
and the crazy energy blasts. And I want to see Mignola draw another Joker story. I mean, there's only like a few
Yes.
panels of Joker, but it's like, oh, I want more of Mignola Joker, please.
It's got a real creepy energy.
I like that Batman immediately takes to Hellboy. We don't have to go through the hero misunderstanding, partially in a smart move by Hellboy, him, since he's a federal agent, going to Gordon. So he didn't just show up in Gotham and pick a fight. And establishing to Batman's like, hey, I know this is your city, but I think you could use my help because magic is my thing. He approached Batman in just the right way to stop him from, this is my city.
So in my brain, I have rewritten one of the earlier panels. They say something about there was a hockey game on at the sports bar in July, and Joker wanted to watch something else, and so he killed everyone in the bar. And I'm like, July is not hockey season. It's too warm for hockey. So I just to be sure, because hockey's not a real sport, I had to look it up. Hockey's not played in July. A really just Joker thing would have been to murder everybody in the sports bar because they weren't showing hockey in July. So just gonna retcon that whole panel. Also, shout out to B Team Atlantis Lemuria. Fun little
Yeah,
inclusion
Hmm.
here.
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. Hellboy uses Lemuria rather than Atlantis pretty regularly because Atlantis is too easy for Mignola. Mignola likes his deep cuts.
Gotta be Hyperborea and Lemuria. So the show Joker was wanting to watch was Frasier, and I
Yes.
do I question if Joker would like Frasier. I don't know if he would like Frasier.
I think he would enjoy making everybody in the sports bar watch
True.
Frasier.
Yes. That would be funny more than Frasier would be funny, yes.
Yeah. Because if he wanted to put on something that was a little more blue collar in the sports bar, they might actually go for it.
Hmm.
I also think it's important for the Batman Hellboy part of this that when they're looking for the Nazis, it's very clear that Batman's the detective. Batman's the one with the street sources. Batman's the one who puts this stuff together. Because the whole joke when Mignola first started doing Hellboy was that he called him the world's greatest paranormal investigator, only he's terrible at that
Hmm.
stuff. He just punches stuff with his big stone fist. So it was
And
always a
it
gag.
works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it was always a gag that he's the world's greatest paranormal investigator. It's why when you get to part two and he and Jack are getting ready to take on the Nazis, so what's the plan? Go in and pound on them? Okay, just checking. That is a Hellboy plan. He just goes in because he's nigh indestructible and has a big stone fist. It's what he does. When you've got a big stone fist, every solution is punch it.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. The running joke of also just Hellboy constantly falling out of planes is also shows up in here, which is fun. Fortunately has, Starman with him so they don't fall far, but
Yeah. Oh, I also thought it was great when the two of them are flying in. Hellboy talks about how they faxed him a file on the Nazi. Faxed. Oh,
Mhm.
ye gods. This is 1999, isn't it? The internet was a thing then, but you were still faxing stuff. And may I just point out, as I did point it out in my notes, one of the Nazi goons literally says, "Make Germany great again."
Yeah. Yeah. I
Notice that.
gasped.
Yeah. Yeah.
That jumped right out at me, and I'm like, oh, oh, oh.
Uh-huh.
It's
That's
been a great 25 years.
that
Sure
is
is great that we solved all of these same problems. Didn't just let them fester.
Well,
no,
hey, you don't have to hunt the Nazis once you elect the Nazis. You know exactly
Mm.
where they are.
yes, yes, that.
Kind of jumping off some of the Nazi stuff, I am surprised that at no point the energy that they're using is described as Vril, because that's just such a gimme with like Nazi occult shit. And comes up in Hellboy. But that is, again, probably a Mignola deep cut more than James Robinson.
Yeah, and I think the Vril. I'm trying to remember. I don't. This is still pre.
It's pre-Sledgehammer 44, so Vril isn't as big a deal with Hellboy stuff yet. Yeah.
Right, yeah, the Sledgehammer and the BPRD stuff
Hmm.
with the what's the corporation?
Oh,
Uh,
Zinko.
yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
where the Vril stuff becomes a real
Hmm.
big deal. The story is the art, just Mignola draws the final. Both issues have big set pieces at the
Hmm.
end, and the big vortex eating everything at the end of part one, and Hellboy and Starman fighting a giant eldritch horror at the end of part two are really, really just stunning visuals. And Robinson absolutely gets the voices of all three of the leads. He's the only person to ever write Jack Knight. I mean, I think maybe Johns wrote him a little bit in JSA, but next to no one else wrote anything with Jack Knight, so obviously he'd get him. And he's written plenty of Batman, but he gets Hellboy pretty spot on here.
Hmm.
And I think that's a lot to do with Mignola knowing how to work with writers and co-writers. I won't say that Hellboy is necessarily an easy character, but he has very clear cadence and a very clear way he holds himself.
Hmm.
So it provides for a fun little two-parter.
Mm.
I would be curious to know why it was decided that it would be formatted the way it was, that you wouldn't actually see all three of them teamed up. That might have been real estate. That might have been, it would have been too much to have all three of them taking up all that page space when you've just got two standard size comics.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Because as it is, this moves really fast. Like this is very breezy as a read, and it would bog down to add like an additional spoke to that. Because even as it is, there's lots of like little exchanges between Hellboy and both Batman and Starman as they're like doing this investigation that I feel like if you added another voice, not only is that more page space that you need, but you then need another person to talk.
I can see also why you don't have any of the other BPRD characters, because I don't know what purpose they would have served in this story. I mean, I guess Liz could have burned the Eldritch Horror, but then you wouldn't need Starman.
Hmm.
So I think
And
it works.
mhm.
You could
Yeah.
have just had Abe doing fish stuff.
Yeah.
Ape Sapien Aquaman, it's right there. Kate Corrigan, Cameron Chase, two grumpy federal agents. I don't know who I would team Liz Sherman up with. Liz Sherman, Martian Manhunter, just for the awkwardness of her throwing fire around and him being like,
Ugh.
I mean, I guess fire. I mean, they both work for extra governmental organizations and cast fire. No, Liz and Ice. Just for Liz to get really, could you please stop bringing up whoever your friend is? I get it. We're kind of alike. And DC doesn't have any were-jaguars, so I can't think of who you'd team up Ben Daimio with.
No, not even really any good were characters. It's kind of a shame.
Cheetah.
Cheetah Ben would be interesting.
Yeah. As a quick shout out, as it will have just wrapped up a few weeks before this episode drops, if you have not read it, you all should check out Cheetah and Cheshire Rob the Justice League by Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott. It's so much fun.
Oh, and if we're going to do shout outs, totally not connected, separate thing. Battle of the Atom, 420th episode. Good job.
Anybody have anything else?
Little bit.
Sure.
There's a tiny joke about H.P. Lovecraft that's just a little too long in this, but otherwise, really solid.
I think that means it's time for Batman, Hellboy, Starman on the big board.
So we currently have 666 stories on the big board.
Now let me say this before we move on. We got an episode list, and each week we go through and we highlight the episode we just did in blue. I did the last episode in red, and Matt didn't like it.
I just thought you might have done it in error, and so I changed it. You please change it back to red. I just thought you clicked the wrong color.
No, I didn't click the wrong color. Jeez. Yeah, all right. We had the spooky episode last week, and now we got to move on.
All right. Number 1 is the post-crisis origin of Batman. Batman Year 1.
Still at a sexy 69, it's Batman 14 to 15 Rooftops.
At 150 is Dark Knight Dark City, the first appearance of Barbatos. At 300 is Final Cut, the story where Mr. Zaz has a fight club of children fighting each other.
Coming in real high, not nearly as close to the bottom as it once was. At number 420, it's Legends of the Dark Knight 28 to 30 Faces.
At 450 is Court Fight, the animated series universe story that introduces the Court of Owls. And all the way at the bottom, at 666, it's Three Jokers.
Oh, so evil, so spooky, so terrible. Also, rest in peace, Joker's boner at 420 last week.
I'm going to start out with a baseline here.
Okay.
281, Batman Grendel. I think this probably goes above Batman Grendel. I love Grendel and Hellboy about equally, but this is much more accessible. If you don't know Grendel, there's a lot of stuff in Batman Grendel that probably could have used a little more explanation.
That book dense as hell.
Everything you needed to know was here for Batman, Hellboy, Starman.
For me, this is the middle story of the night. So I would argue that one story is going to go above this and one story is going to go below. But I think for starters, yes, I think I would put this above Batman Grendel.
All right. Batman Judge Dredd at 214.
Ooh.
Have we found a ceiling?
You know, I'm looking at Batman Dylan Dog at 253, and I think
Okay.
so I would have wanted more Batman in this story. And yes, I get the structure, right? One issue is going to be Batman Hellboy, and the other issue is going to be Hellboy Starman. But I really feel like that because I'm not invested in Starman as a character. To me, that first issue is a lot stronger. And Dylan Dog was just so weird, so strange. Like, I think this is a pretty standard Hellboy story. You're not going to go into this and be super surprised. Dylan Dog's got some weirdness to it.
Man, Hellboy Dylan Dog would be fun too.
Oh, that would be fun. Get on that.
Someday we will cover the arc of Starman where Batman guest stars, where they go Batman, Starman, Alan Scott, and Jason Woodrue eat psychotropic yams and go into the mind of Solomon Grundy.
That's weird, man.
Oh, it's very weird.
That's weird.
Okay, so In that case, we are between 281 and 253. Let me actually give you a number.
Give me a number.
265. So in between the Damian as Batman story and Batman 666 at 264, but above Gates of Gotham, which is fun, but does take its time.
Very plotting.
Yes, this is a much more direct story.
I like it.
All right.
265.
Our second story of the night is Joker Mask. This is Joker Mask numbers 1 to 4. The writer is Henry T. Gilroy, with pencils by Ramon Box, inks by Howard M. Shum, colors by Dave McCaig, letters by Steve Dutro, and edited by David Land and Matt Idelson. The cover date is May to August of the year 2000. The Joker has come into the possession of the powerful artifact called the Mask, granting him godlike powers and making him all the more unpredictable. As the Mask slowly corrupts, the Joker, the GCPD can do nothing to stop him, and Harley Quinn misses her old puddin'. Batman must make a last-ditch effort to save the city from the madness of this combined force of chaos. I want to start out with a little bit of Matt's context corner that I learned looking into this story,
Oh, please do.
being utterly perplexed by it. This is, in theory, the in-continuity end of the original cycle of Mask stories.
Get the fuck out.
There is no canon-y Mask story for 17 years after this.
Get the fuck out.
The Mask gets buried at the end of this story and is off the board until 2019.
Wild.
Yeah. You could theoretically ignore it and the previous story would be the end of that cycle of stories, but it does sort of logically explain why the Mask disappears for all these years. But is just an utterly bizarre place to choose to end your just about a decade-long independent comic saga with a crossover with the Joker.
Well, when you're crossing over with one of the most famous villains in comics, maybe you can't go no higher than that if you're an independent story.
And I would have to imagine this is probably the best-selling Mask comic of all time outside of something that was released right around the time of the Jim Carrey movie.
What would that have been? Like 94? 95?
94-ish? Sounds about right. Like the movie adaptation, I'm sure, did gangbusters. Because that was the height of movie adaptations.
94.
Yeah, I thought so. This, to me, felt very much like more of a crossover between Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
All of these versions of the characters felt very animated series to me. Up to and including the only GCPD you get are Gordon and Bullock and Montoya, and Joker and Harley are very much playing off each other like they do in the animated series. And I mean, we are right after Harley would have come into the comics, but it's also Gilroy was the writer of one episode of Batman the Animated Series and a few episodes of, I kid you not, this exists, The Mask the Animated Series. There was an animated series of The Mask with The Mask voiced by legendary voice actor Rob Paulsen.
I vaguely remember that.
It was weird because you could only do so much with that because it's a weekday morning cartoon.
So this would have been my bottom story. I think largely because it's very kid friendly. I think the comparison to the animated series is right on point. There are no surprises here, right? Joker gets a mask and he does kind of zanier Joker stuff. at the very end where we have a conflict between Joker and the Mask. That's where it gets interesting. Like I think this whole story should have been Joker versus the Mask, right? Though those two kind of elemental characters against each other. That would have been interesting. But this is to me relatively flat.
Would that have been someone else wearing the mask versus the Joker, or the Joker donning the mask and struggling against like he does at the end? I'm just
At
curious.
more of that from the end.
So two heads the whole
Oh,
time.
Catwoman wearing the mask. Ooh, that's so exciting and weird. No, I think Joker versus himself in the mask is more interesting. And also, how many times you going to point out in this comic, "Oh, this is not funny."
Hmm.
Like I that's
Yeah, that is
yeah, I feel that. It's really not funny.
definitely one of the problems here, is that the funniest moment in this story is in, I think, the very beginning of issue 2, when Joker shows up in a Batman cowl in Gordon's office and they shoot at him, and then Bullock chucks his gun at Joker, and Joker, "Who do you think I am, Superman?" Which is a reference to the old George Reeves Superman show, where every episode the guys would shoot at him, it wouldn't work, and then one of them would throw the gun at him. Every episode that happened. I'm like, that is an oddly deep cut, and I think is very funny because I know that show.
And it is kind of the height of lameness to do Who Wants to Be a Millionaire gags at like 2000.
Because Millionaire had been on at that point for what? At least a year or two?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a very ambitious story. And while the somewhat sexist joke of Joker calling Ivy Greenpeace, Piece,
Hmm.
is, it's somewhat, but it's at least something of wordplay. It's a joke that only works if you're reading it, and he's saying it out loud, so it's, again, it's not funny. The other joke that I actually did laugh at is when Joker turns himself into Super Joker. "Look up in the sky, it's a dodo, it's a lawn dart." Looking up at a lawn dart, like, okay, that is actually a very
Hmm.
sick Joker sort of joke. I can go with that.
Shout out to Tim and Deanie was cute.
Yes,
And Stradley.
and Stradley,
Yeah.
who's the
Yeah.
creator of the mask,
Yeah.
or one of the co-creators of the mask.
There were a few other like weird, it might have been a coincidence, it might have been a deep cut, like stuff like Catwoman being there's a very brief Catwoman appearance and Joker spanks her, which could be a reference to like the original Catwoman. It could also, there's a lot of like very fetishy stuff in this for what is otherwise a pretty, like you all said, a kid-friendly comic. It's also got a little bit of a, not even an edge, just a, I don't know, the art's kind of horny.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, some very
Just gonna quickly
sophomoric.
Google a Catwoman getting spanked and see what.
Oh, dude, welcome to
I,
AO3.
yeah,
Joker's new hench girls, Nip and Tuck.
Jokettes.
Jokettes.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say, Catwoman getting spanked. The very first thing that comes up is this comic.
Huh.
I could see
Okay.
this being an awakening for someone, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff we get towards the middle end of this, with Joker getting obsessed with his ratings and all of that. This is the year 2000. That really feels like late 80s, early 90s humor.
Hmm.
The TV and all of that. It Access Joker. Yeah, it's all very not that funny.
Well, even like the stuff that like, oh, all the people of Gotham want to see is explosions is very, again, like that's the Family Guy intro song at that point. Like it's kind of done.
And you've got Batman sidelined for 2 of the 4 issues, which I guess makes a degree of sense, because you couldn't have Batman constantly trying and failing to stop the big head Joker. That the big head thing, that is a mask, the mask comic. Apparently he's called Big Head. I wound up getting at a con a ways back. Dark Horse did these slightly undersized omnibuses that aren't what we think of as omnibuses now, those giant unwieldy hardcovers, but reprints of long out of print stuff. And I got the first Mask omnibus, and I haven't gotten around to reading it, but I'd be curious. I mean, it's John Arcudi, who I think is a pretty good writer, and
Mhm.
it was the first thing that Doug Mahnke really broke out on. And I was like, okay. I mean, I love his DC stuff, so I am curious to see what he did here. But I have this really bad feeling like I don't think this is going to have aged very well, as a lot of 90s humor has not.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. Content warning.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the what is it, the Disney, what Disney puts in front of, this stuff wasn't right then and it's not right now, but we thought it would be good to present it the way it was originally presented. Ramon Box does a pretty decent job with the story. It is very cartoony,
Mhm.
which I don't think this would have worked in a more traditional DC house style. But I wish the art had leaned a little more into Batman the Animated Series for the designs of those characters. Because if you're writing in that style, I think that it would have looked better with the Tim Batman and such.
Yeah, and it certainly would have worked with the story.
They do allow Joker to be more violent than you would in Batman the Animated Series. I mean, he is killing people left and right, but we still, other than his hench that he kills at the very beginning, all the deaths are kind of off screen or they save somebody.
Mhm.
And here's a riddle for you, right? Speaking of that henchman, he says, "Oh, boss, I thought you said mausoleum instead of museum." But how did he know to be at the museum?
Yeah, I don't know because it was funny.
This story would have been at least more interesting if the mask had stayed on the henchman the whole time. That would have been an interesting conflict.
While I know the title is Joker Mask, I think a couple of pages of Batman with the mask would have been really interesting. Just to see either Batman giving into it or the mask not being able to break through Batman's Batmanness. That it goes on and it just falls off. It won't
Mhm.
won't work.
Or becoming some weird version of Asbat, like more of a
Mhm.
Punisher, cruel Batman for, I don't know, a page or two.
And him ripping it off when he's getting ready to finally just kill the Joker.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think it felt like a missed opportunity to not do that for just a couple of pages at the end of the story.
Similarly, like, this picks up a bit in the middle with like Ivy kind of using the Joker as a weapon against, various polluting industries and such. Like again, it would have been more interesting to see, okay, if she gets the mask, what does that look like? If Harley gets the mask, what does that look like? It just being Joker and it largely just doing kind of Joker things just with superpowers robs some of the impact of having the mask powers when it's only one person doing more or less their usual thing with it, just a little zanier.
Yeah, absolutely. As Batman points out on more than one occasion here, Joker is pure id to begin with. The mask
Mhm.
isn't really affecting him that much.
If anything, it's toning him down.
Right. He's not being creatively violent. He's just using his powers to blow
Mhm.
stuff up. And that's how they get him in the end. And that is true to the character, that the way you always wind up beating the Joker is pricking his ego. It's not necessarily a bad story, but it's not the most original thing we've ever read.
Yeah, I think if you turn this in at the script level, like you give it to an editor, have them look it over, I think a good editor says, "What are you really doing here? That you're not doing anything interesting with this. Like, yeah, it's perfectly serviceable, but there's no surprises, there's no novelty. I think in many ways, of all of the crossovers you could do between the entire DC universe and the character of the Mask, this is one of the less interesting ones.
It's the most obvious, but it's not doing anything interesting with
Hmm.
what you have.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been more interesting if the Joker put on the mask and I said a minute ago that the mask wouldn't work for Batman because of his self-control. But what if the Joker puts everyone he sees other people putting on the mask and it does stuff, but the mask won't work for the Joker because it unleashes your id and the Joker has nothing to unleash because it's always
Hmm.
on the surface as it is. And the Joker gets really frustrated because he can't get this thing to work for him. There's more there than, oh, it's just a wacky story. And that again is why it feels like a kid's comic, because it's so very simple, but it's also not a kid's comic because as we said, it's really violent and it's got some slightly off color bits either. It's not something you give to a little kid, but there's not
PG-13.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
PG-13. There's not enough there for an adult to be really interested, but there's a little too much for the age group I feel like the general concept would appeal to.
I like that war of jokes and riddles, smoldering, angry Joker. Like, why can't this work for me? Everybody else has fun with this. Why not me? Yeah, that would have been interesting. Again, so many different ways we could have punched up the story at the script stage.
So not a Batman character thing, but I've not read any of the Mask comics. I've only watched the movies, and this character of Inspector Calloway, Detective Calloway, who's in here. I have no familiar with him. He's not really a character in this. You don't get any characterization from him other than he wants to stop the Mask. And I guess at the end of that he knew Stanley Ipkiss. But that's kind of it, and you don't get any more of him. You don't really get any more of the Mask, so it's also, in terms of a crossover, I think falling a little flat there. Like we saw in the Hellboy stuff, a good crossover, you get the point of the characters that are crossing over, even if you're not familiar with them.
Yeah, he's just a guy with a shotgun
Yeah.
occasionally.
This is a Joker story where the mask pops up. It's not
Hmm.
a really hardened true crossover.
Oh, that means it's time. But Joker the Mask on the big board.
So I agree. This is definitely below Batman, Hellboy, Starman. All right. So my first instincts, wow, I forget. I was going to say 400s, but now I'm thinking actually with the way the list has grown, probably 500s. Because that is where a lot of the stuff that has some neat moments, but is sort of fundamentally has some issues with it. Like the JL Ape crossover at 515. Yes, it's a great concept. The Justice League gets turned into monkeys, but we don't get enough time with the JLA as monkeys in that story.
So 491, Dark Claw Adventures. For me, this is another story that just overstays its welcome. I struggled to stay awake reading this.
No, you're thinking of Legend of Dark Claw, I think. Because remember, we did two of these. This is the animated series one with Talia.
Well, I have on my list Dark Claw Adventures #1 at 491.
Right. Yes. I think you're thinking of Legend of the Dark Claw, which is the other Dark Claw story. That was the one that was like, ugh.
Okay.
This one was better than that. I might be wrong, but what do you remember of the story you're thinking of?
Oh, I don't. I was just going to make the observation that that was just one issue where this was four.
Okay.
I'm just
I
bringing it up as a place to start.
okay. I thought that one was more enjoyable. I enjoyed that one more than this. I definitely think this is better than the other Dark Claw, the one with all that nonsense. But I think this is right around that area, though. I think we're around 500.
JL Ape.
This is probably above that because that A has even less Bat characters in it and is, as I was saying before, they are similar in that they are both a fun concept that doesn't do everything that it should with that concept. But man, some of those JL8 annuals were really not good. That is 8 annuals, and some of them were took forever to get through.
Yeah, we just did a couple weeks ago Brave and the Bold 80, and Hellgrammet is his name. I think that that was more enjoyable at 509.
Okay. So then that's a pretty narrow range between 515 and 509. What about I Am Suicide? Right in the middle there, 513.
I think I would put this at 512, right below Who Would Win.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I will say, the scans I was reading this from had the ads from the originals still in them, and
Ooh, ad
that did
watch.
add some nice. Yeah, yeah, they were mostly for, Dark Horse stuff coming out at the time, a few like DC things, but just seeing like the variety of stuff of what Dark Horse was putting out at the end of right at the turn of the millennium, very interesting mix because it's stuff like Grendel, all their Star Wars stuff, but then also like all of these minis and their manga like translations. It's such an interesting mix of stuff.
I want to shout something out, and I think it's a good time to shout it out with Matt here on the show. I was able to read both this and the first story by borrowing these books on Hoopla, my library app. So if you're having a hard time finding something that might be out of print, it does not hurt to check your library's digital app because sometimes those out of print things are there. It had the complete DC mask crossovers because there's 3 of them. There's this, there's Grifter Mask and Lobo Mask, which again, low hanging fruit with Lobo Mask. What is the mask going to do for Lobo? It's just going to make him more Lobo? Green Lobo?
So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
used this Hoopla app to read these digitally?
Yeah.
Huh.
Hoopla is a solid service. My library does not use it. We don't have the budget, unfortunately, for Hoopla. It's fairly expensive, from the back end side. I won't get too boring with library day-to-day stuff, but yeah, no, Hoopla is a very solid service. Has a lot of like good lending options. I believe it works a little bit more on a credit system as opposed to stuff like Libby, but yeah,
Yeah,
solid service.
I think you get 5 borrows a
Okay.
month.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a
And
streaming thing that's similar to that.
yeah, I got all 3 of the stories tonight on there and still have a couple of borrows for the
Hmm.
month. But as you know, 3 stories. Our final story of the night is Hammer of Justice. This is Black Hammer Justice League numbers 1 to 5. The writer is Jeff Lemire, with art and colors by Michael Walsh, letters by Nat Picos and Blambot, and edited by Michelle McAllister, Daniel Chabon, Chuck Howitt, and Brett Israel. The cover dates are September of 2019 to January of 2020. Things have changed. The heroes of another world, long trapped on an extra-dimensional farm after a great cataclysm, have appeared on the Justice League's Earth. And in their place, 5 members of the League are trapped. Something is behind this, and something must be done to set it right before all reality is torn asunder. So here I am curious. Matt, have you read Black Hammer?
I have read the first 3, so the stuff this is kind of directly following up. I have not actually read the stuff after that. I really need to. I like Black Hammer a lot. It's just not something I've gotten around to. But no, no, I have these in singles. Like I got this like as it was coming out. This was like right after I had finished stuff. Yeah.
And Will, I assume you didn't have familiarity with Black Hammer. I tend to know what you've read, so
I want to say I read the first arc, but then there got to be so many Black Hammer stories, it became hard to keep up with. And the reading order became hard to keep up with. So I was like, oh, this is getting a little too complicated for me.
This was the first Black Hammer I read. And then I went back and
Hmm.
I've read the first trade, and I read they did a Barbalian miniseries by Tate Bromble that I wound up buying from his table at FlameCon a couple years
Oh,
ago
fun.
and read that after I interviewed
Perfect
him.
for FlameCon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The sponsor for FlameCon that year was Tiny Onion.
Okay.
So Tynion was there, Bromble was there. It was right around the time Christopher Chaos started.
Hmm.
That was just to get an idea of the baseline here, because I have to say, having, as I said, I hadn't read any Black Hammer before this. It's helpful that Lemire, who's the creator of Black Hammer, is writing it, but it does a really, really good job of introducing the characters and the concept in a really digestible way.
Hmm.
You go in and you have everything you need to know about these characters if you've never read them right out of the gate. And I think that was just really, really well done. This is a really strong crossover.
Hmm.
Yes.
That it's probably of the night, as much as I enjoyed Batman, Hellboy, Starman, that was very, as we said, it's very bare bones of those worlds. This is enmeshed in both the Black Hammer world and
Hmm.
the DC universe, but never at any point feels overly dependent on either.
It is a very good melding of the two.
That even works to the art. Like it's a really nice split difference between, especially like 2019 DC House style and the style of the original Black Hammer comics. It's superhero-y, but still has kind of the grit that those do.
I love Dean Ormston, who
Hmm.
does those original Black Hammer stories. He did maybe not alternating arcs, but regular fill-ins on Mike Carey's Lucifer. It was mostly Peter Gross, but Ormston would come in every few arcs, and it was really good. But yeah, Walsh here does a really good job of having a style in between what you'd expect from both. And the universe crossing crossover doesn't always work. They can often feel very convenient, but here it makes sense, especially when you have the villain of the piece who it turns out to be. It's not terribly difficult to figure out who it is, even from the beginning. Dude in a purple suit with a purple bowler who's doing stuff, even if he's not
Hmm.
all decked out and being weird, it's like, huh, I wonder who this is who could do things about throwing people through dimensions. I wonder.
Shut up. Not all of us know Superman villains as
Right.
soon as
Oh,
we see them.
exactly. If you don't have the background, it's not. But for if you've read a bunch of Superman, it's like, okay, it's pretty obviously Mixie-Spitlick.
I think the balance here was so good.
Yeah.
We didn't spend too much time on the farm. We didn't spend too much time in the regular DC universe. I liked the farm stuff that we did get. The idea that, Bruce is not particularly taking this well, that he's driving around looking for trouble. And the sheriff's like, no, stop it. And then as they slowly figure out, oh wait, we haven't been here for 10 years. That was fun. So yeah, just a really, really good story.
Lemire does so much with Golden Gale in this story.
Yes.
That is the central character through line of this story. I mean, I guess if you've got one Justice Leaguer, it's Batman who's sort of driving this.
Hmm.
But when it comes to the Black Hammer characters, it's Gale's story. And you get to that point in part 4 where she finally gets to be herself again. And what Mixie does at the end, it's a bit meaner than a lot of the Mixie Spitlick stories. It's more traditional mythological trickster jerk ass than Mixie just being quirky and kind of a nuisance.
There's some cruelty to it.
Yeah. And there are stories where Mixie can be cruel, but often he's just poking because he has nothing better to do. He's not necessarily pulling the wings off flies, which that very much is. When it comes to the art, one of the pages that really jumped out at me, just because it popped in my head when I was talking about Mixie there, is when the Spectre first shows up. I want Michael Walsh to draw a Spectre story. But I always get a little befuddled when it comes to power levels, because I would think the Spectre outranks Mixie Spitlick, but I guess maybe not?
It's that extra dimension, buddy.
Spectre's...
The wrath of God is only in our dimension.
Okay. And it's not like this, I guess it's also like Mixie probably didn't destroy the Spectre, he just teleported him off. And so the Spectre is somewhere just stewing and trying to find his way back, and also didn't see it coming. I guess if the Spectre was waiting for Mixie Spitlick, he might have been able to stop him. One thing I would have liked just a little more of, and I'm glad that we got the one page of it. After Bruce tells off Clark, you've given up on trying to leave, and you get one page of Clark looking at photos he had of Lois. I would have liked a little more of Clark struggling with being here. So, even though this is more of a world I'm comfortable with, you don't think I want to get back to Lois? I thought the bits with Cyborg and Talkie Walkie were a lot of fun. I thought that was a good little dynamic. And I enjoy the heck out of Colonel Weird. He's just the tripped out superhero is delightful.
One the really obvious delight that you can tell that there is in being able to pull out the mystery in space, like stuff as like he's drifting out of the Parazone into the DC universe and running into all of the Green Lanterns.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That he is he's more than slightly. Adam Strange is the baseline there, and then they're building on that. So throwing this really whacked out Adam Strange into the DC universe is fun. I thought one of my favorite dynamics in the whole thing was Barbalian and John.
Oh, that was some good humor. Wait, Martians aren't green?
I hear some of them are white too. Come on, man. Little green man. Oh, be more of a stereotype.
One panel where he like transforms into like a weird copy of John is
Gale being horny for Aquaman. That's pretty good. Stop looking at me like that, please.
And then when she gets her power and punches him across town, that's for calling me that's for that old woman crack. The scene when she first runs into Z and Zatanna sees everything that's going on with her and just sees the pain she's in is really good. Lemire knows how to really hit you just right. He is the king of sad dad comics, but he's also good at other sad comics too.
And as we've seen previously, sometimes angry dad comics.
Yes, that as well. I like Cyborg having to be attached to a battery because they didn't have everything to charge them. Again, I agree. I don't think this needed more space. I think this did everything it needed to in the space it had. But boy, there were some little ideas with the League on the farm that I could have seen more of that. I think we got everything in the DC universe was perfectly spaced out. Other than maybe a little more Gale enjoying being herself again. But that could have gotten real, like, overly sad real fast. But I want to see Wonder Woman 4th grade history teacher. And her, like, these books are all wrong.
Could have seen Flash die?
Yeah.
You do get the reveal that what they perceived as him dying is him just, like, vanishing back out of everything. But it is, especially when he's kind of standing in as the Black Hammer analog, when in Black Hammer very directly, like, they can you see what happened to Black Hammer. Like it hits you pretty hard. It's the one bit where them being dropped in as analogs just kind of feels like, and here's a placeholder. Which, that's, Mixie's being lazy.
I also loved, again, it was only 1 or 2 pages, but when Colonel Weird winds up on Bizarro World
Mhm.
and we see the Bizarro Black Hammer characters, that was fun. And when Gale sort of acknowledges the trope of being in the DC universe, why can't I swear? Every time I swear, it comes out
Yes.
like you can see that she can't. We see the Grolix, and I guess she's just hearing a censored beep or
Mhm.
some gobbledygook. Like, okay, that's funny. I like that. And then when Barry actually does swear, John Stewart's like, "Man, Barry, you don't usually swear like that. Well, call me by surprise." We mentioned already, but the first pages of issue 2, when Bruce is driving the truck and he's just talking, it's so flat, no skyscrapers, nowhere to hide. How weirded out he is by being stuck somewhere where there isn't anywhere for him to brood properly. And I like,
Man needs brooding space.
yes, and I like that they point out at the end that because of the way the universe changed and hid things, they couldn't have seen Madame Dragonfly's cabin before that, because otherwise Bruce would have just been hunkered down in that cabin brooding. It's my brooding cavern. Or when he calls it calls the barn the Bat Cave, and somewhere like,
Yes.
that's not the Bat Cave.
He has to have a cave.
He
Even if
does.
it's a barn, it needs to be a cave.
Exactly.
Well, look, there are probably bats in there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
true. My one last note, I loved Gail when she finally chooses to change back and to go back. First, she throws it in Mixie's face, saying that she's doing it because you thought I wouldn't,
Mhm.
but also because we're heroes and that means something still. That's a really good moment and a good thing to see this character who has been mostly unpleasant throughout this story having that moment. It's like, oh, right, these are superheroes.
Yeah.
And they still are, even if they've been stuck for 10 years on a farm and weren't ready to fight a Starro.
One last question. Obviously, Black Hammer Gang, that is a set lineup. Is there a leaguer we could have brought in, switched out, who would have had an interesting pairing or an interesting story to tell in this crossover?
Honestly, Aquaman on the farm would be interesting because there's no ocean anywhere near. Like he is stuck hundreds, thousands of miles away from an ocean or any sizable body of water. Like, the farm is somewhere generically in like the American or Canadian plains. Like it is in the middle of nowhere, not near anything.
These five, the five who went there are not necessarily analogs to the 5 who left. Because you would have had Martian Manhunter, obviously, because Barbalian is the Manhunter analog.
The one interaction that I think would have been interesting and maybe the most obvious, Gale and Shazam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Mary Marvel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, those are the clear inspiration. And Sam is, or Slam, Abraham Slam,
Yeah.
he's not even necessarily a one-to-one. He's this sort of just in a mold of your Captain America, gang busting, classic Golden Age hero.
Felt kind of Ted Granty.
Yeah,
Little Wildcatty.
very much so. You're gonna do the Trinity. It's just the question of, and Cyborg makes a degree of sense because again of in a place where there's no tech or low tech, where do you deal with Cyborg? I think those are both really interesting choices for who else could have been there.
I think Talkie Walkie probably should have played a bigger role in the story if Cyborg's gonna be there. But again, this is marginal punch up. This was good. This is a good fun time.
This was very well done.
I believe that means it's time to put Black Hammer Justice League Hammer of Justice on the big board.
I'm going to start with one that was from an episode from another Matt episode and has
Oh.
at least a little commonality here. Joker Killer Smile at 258.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it's another
Oh
Lemire.
man. Yeah. That's kind of a tough call. I feel like this doesn't have the smile killer problem.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Again, I think we might be in the neighborhood.
It's close, yeah.
I mean, for instance, again, I think we can definitely ceiling this if we're thinking about other crossovers at Batman Judge Dredd. I think that is just still kind of a high watermark when it comes to some of these Batman meeting characters from another universe story.
We might have to re-rank that a second time.
I mean, hey, 214, when you think about it, we're at 666. That is, or 669 by the end of this. That is still well placed. It's considerably more well placed than it was before.
Higher than the Killing Joke at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And yet still under Batman 66 meets the Green Hornet.
All right, let me just I'm going to set the ceiling a little bit lower.
Okay.
I don't think this beats the post-crisis origin of Jason Todd at 228. Sort of reimagining of Jason Todd as a character who isn't a Dick Grayson knockoff.
What's a story you think I would call out if I were me, Matt?
In that area,
Yeah.
what are you going to make me oh, you bastard. You know how I feel about Blades.
Higher or lower than
For
244,
fuck's sake.
Matthew?
Well, okay, I will say I'm struggling with that. I will say I probably wouldn't put it if it's higher, it's not going to go more than one or two spaces higher because I think Archie meets Batman 66 is just so damn charming. It's either right above or right below Blades.
No need to trouble yourself, Matthew. New 245.
And that is it for tonight. Matt, thank you as ever for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Please give
Yeah.
your end of show shout outs.
Yes. Yeah. So in lieu of any of my stuff, because it's not that important, I can do it next time I'm on. I live in the Twin Cities, and the situation right now with ICE is really bad. So I just wanted to shout out a couple of organizations that are, doing what they can to help keep people safe here. That if you have anything you are able to give, could really use donations right now. That's Unidos, Copal, and Mirac. You can search any of those, followed by MN for Minnesota, and that will take you to them. They're people that are doing good work to try to help people in the current fucked up situation.
We stand firmly with those who are standing up to ICE right now.
Fuck
Thank you.
ICE.
Thank you for coming on the show, Matt. Thank you for
Yeah, absolutely.
for that. Next week, we are doing a full episode of Bat manga, including the final volume of One Operation Joker.
Oh, last of baby Batman.
Remember, you can support the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/batchat with Matt and Will, where you can get shout outs, bonus content, pick a story, and even come on the show. We'd like to thank those Patreon backers: Dan Grote, Josh Wheel, Mrs. Abigail Hartbaum, Asma Fangirl, Tony Thornley,
Go Aggies.
Sam Hopper,
Go to bed, Sam.
John Wickham,
John, you lovely, lovely boy.
Robert Secundus,
Bobby Two Bucks, you're doing fair on the discourse. It's been an okay week.
Tim Rooney, Giorgio Sergioli, David Wheel,
World's greatest gray belt,
Alexander Wheel, Matt McThorn,
McThorny,
Dan Offer,
barely knower,
Nate Randell, Daniel Mosley, Ross Holmes,
Mr. Random Ace,
Will Crisp,
mi compadre,
Carlos Cordova, Jordan Jennings, Charlie Etheridge Nunn, Sean Shambly, and the Final Wraith for their support.
Spooky Wraith.
This show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music /Audible, YouTube Music, Podbean, and on comicsxf.com, with new episodes drop every Thursday. You can find me on Blue Sky, where I talk about comics and other random things, and Letterboxd, where I review all the movies I watch, both at MattLaz1013.
Against my better judgment, I remain on Twitter at Will Nevin. I think I'm gonna pour me something to drink and drink that drink and then go to bed. Good night, Huntsville.
And be sure to visit ComicsXF at comicsxf.com or ComicsXF on Blue Sky for our weekly Friday batchet roundup of new Bat books. For my other show, the ComicsXF Interview Podcast, where my longtime best friend Dan Grote and I interview comics creators, retailers, publishers, journalists, and other related tradespeople, as well as all the other stuff Will and I are writing. And stay safe out there, folks. Gotham is not a place to be after dark.